I was settled in the doctor's waiting area when my cell phone chimed. It was my daughter, the only one I had, Lily. Her tone struck me as odd, almost frigid, as she declared, "Mom, we're off to Europe tomorrow. I've already sold your seaside cottage and your vehicle. We needed the funds. Goodbye." And with that abruptness, she disconnected. 45 years I'd devoted to her upbringing, countless sacrifices, only to be discarded like refuse. Yet I inhaled deeply and curved my lips into a knowing smile, for there was a crucial detail my beloved daughter remained oblivious to. My name is Eleanor Vance. I am 71 years old, and until that very moment, I genuinely believed I understood my child. I had been a widow for half a year. My husband, Arthur, had succumbed to a heart attack during our morning breakfast, a ritual we'd observed for 45 years. That particular morning, he had prepared my coffee with cream and toast. As always, he had gently kissed my forehead and uttered, "Good morning, my dearest." Those were his final words. Subsequent to his passing, Lily had seemingly become a more constant presence in my life, or so I had been led to believe. She visited 3 times a week. She assisted with the funeral arrangements and accompanied me to the grocery store. She even suggested I undergo a comprehensive medical examination. "Mother, you must take better care of yourself now that you're on your own," she'd remark, with a smile I had once interpreted as affection, but now recognized as a facade of convenience. The seaside cottage had served as our retreat for many years. Arthur and I acquired it when Lily was 15, through arduous toil and self-denial. Each summer, we'd journey there, crafting memories, commemorating birthdays and festive holidays. Lily would bring her boyfriends, and later, her husband, Mark. I would prepare meals for everyone, tidy up, and handle the laundry. It was our treasured family custom. I never imagined she would perceive it as merely a source of capital, and the automobile, that vintage Ford pickup Arthur cherished as if it were his own flesh and blood. He would meticulously wash it every Sunday, diligently change its oil, and invariably park it in the same shaded spot beneath the tree. Lily was fully aware of the truck's significance to me. It represented the last tangible link I had to him. His familiar scent still lingered within its cabin. When she abruptly ended the call, I remained seated on that uncomfortable emerald plastic chair, enveloped by other ailing individuals. And for the first time in months, no tears welled up. A curious transformation occurred within me, a tranquility I hadn't experienced since Arthur's demise, because in that instant, a forgotten memory resurfaced with striking clarity. 3 days prior to his passing, Arthur had handed me a manila envelope. "Eleanor, place this in your dresser drawer. Should anything happen to me, open it after some time, but only when you feel prepared." I had set it aside without much thought. Following the funeral, overwhelmed by sorrow and countless arrangements, it had slipped my mind entirely. But there it was, awaiting my return home. The nurse summoned me for my appointment. The doctor examined me, confirming my robust health for my age, advising only more rest and improved nutrition. I nodded and smiled, yet my thoughts were elsewhere. I was contemplating that envelope, the chilling lack of warmth in Lily's voice, and the strong suspicion that Mark was the orchestrator behind it all. He had never held me in high regard, always viewing me as an impediment. I departed the medical office and ambled towards the bus stop. I no longer possessed a car, courtesy of Lily's actions. But as I waited, I couldn't suppress a faint smile. There was a peculiar poetic justice in the unfolding events. My daughter believed she had deprived me of everything. However, what she failed to grasp was that Arthur, my cherished Arthur, had always been a man of meticulous foresight. The bus arrived, and I secured a window seat. I observed the city passing by, the houses, the shops, people hurrying in every direction, each carrying their own burdens, their own concealed narratives. I, too, harbored my own, and I was on the verge of unearthing them. Upon reaching home, I went directly to my bedroom. I opened the dresser drawer, and there lay the manila envelope precisely where I had placed it. My hands trembled slightly as I retrieved it. I could discern the presence of multiple documents within. Arthur had inscribed my name on the front in his elegant penmanship. I settled onto the bed we had shared for so many years, taking a deep breath. Dusk was descending outside, and the house was gradually filling with those familiar shadows that no longer instilled fear within me. I slowly opened the envelope, as if unwrapping a treasured birthday present. What I unearthed inside would irrevocably alter everything. What I unearthed within that envelope stole my breath away. There were legal documents, property deeds, bank certificates, and a personal letter penned by Arthur. My eyes welled with tears as I recognized his familiar handwriting. My dearest Eleanor, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer by your side. Forgive me for not revealing everything while I was alive, but I wished to shield you from anxieties. Over the years, I invested our savings in various properties and ventures. We possess more than just the seaside cottage. We own 6 other properties, including the apartment building where Lily and Mark reside. We also hold shares in 3 companies, whose value far surpasses imagination. You are wealthy, my love. You always were, but now it is unequivocally documented. My hands quivered as I scrutinized the papers. There were deeds to houses in diverse city districts, a downtown condominium, a modest coastal motel, and indeed, the 20-story apartment complex where my daughter lived. Arthur had been the quiet proprietor for the past decade, yet he had placed everything under the ownership of a company unfamiliar to me. And according to the documents, I was the sole inheritor of that enterprise. There were also bank statements for accounts I never knew existed, displaying figures that seemed surreal. Arthur had been a bus driver for 40 years, but apparently he had also been an exceptionally astute investor. Every penny we had saved, every sacrifice we had made, he had silently multiplied, and I had remained utterly oblivious. In the letter, Arthur elucidated that he had kept it all a secret because he didn't want me to fret about finances, nor for Lily to become aware of our true financial standing. You know our daughter, Eleanor. If she learned we possessed such wealth, her demeanor would undoubtedly change. I desire for her to love us for who we are, not for what we own. How utterly ironic. Our daughter had departed, convinced we had nothing, when in reality we possessed everything. That night, sleep eluded me. I walked through the house, touching the antique furniture and the decorative trinkets Lily had always disparaged as antiquated. I gazed at the family photographs adorning the wall, especially the one where she was 5 years old, perched on Arthur's lap, laughing. Where had that sweet little girl vanished? When had she transformed into such a cold, calculating individual? The following morning, in the early hours, the phone chimed again. It was Lily. Her voice sounded different, softer, but I had by then learned to be wary of such tonal shifts. Mom, how are you? I wanted to inform you that we've already transferred the proceeds from the house and the car. We deposited your portion into your account. It's not much, but it will sustain you for a few months while you search for something smaller. My portion? I inquired, maintaining a calm demeanor. Yes, Mom. We obviously weren't going to leave you entirely destitute. We allocated 30 to you. That's fair, wouldn't you say? We require the funds for our European investment. Mark has an incredible business opportunity there. 30% of my own possessions. How remarkably magnanimous. I see, dear. And when do you depart? This afternoon. Our luggage is already packed. We'll be gone for at least 6 months. Possibly longer if the venture thrives. But don't worry, Mom. Upon our return, we'll assist you in finding a small apartment. Something that caters to your needs. Cater to my needs, as if she possessed any genuine understanding of what my needs truly were. All right, Lily. Have a safe trip. Oh, Mom, I knew you'd comprehend. You've always been so understanding. We love you so much." And she disconnected. I remained standing, the phone cradled in my hand. And for the first time in months, I erupted in laughter. I laughed more heartily than I had since Arthur's passing. The situation was so preposterous. It was comical. My daughter had defrauded me, expelled me from my own dwelling, and conversed with me with insufferable condescension, all to finance a European escapade that would likely end in disaster. But what troubled me most wasn't the money. It was the effortless manner in which she had dismissed me. 45 years of my life dedicated to her, of sacrifice, of boundless affection, and she had erased me from her existence with a 2-minute phone call. That was the true source of pain. I checked my bank account online. True to her word, they had deposited a sum that likely seemed generous to them, but to me felt like a deliberate insult. They had sold the seaside cottage for far less than its actual worth, likely due to their urgent need for cash, and they had offloaded Arthur's truck for a negligible amount. That afternoon, from my window, I observed Lily and Mark loading their suitcases into a taxi. He struggled with 2 enormous cases. She carried a very expensive-looking travel bag. I watched them laugh, exchange kisses, and excitedly plan their future. They resembled 2 teenagers, thrilled about an upcoming adventure. They never once glanced toward my window, never offered a farewell. As the taxi pulled away, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea and Arthur's documents spread across the table. Decisions needed to be made. I could contact a lawyer, reclaim my properties, and retrieve everything they had taken. But an inner intuition suggested there was a more effective approach, a more instructive path. I telephoned Mr. Davies, the lawyer who had managed Arthur's affairs. He had attended the funeral, offered his condolences, and assured me to call if I ever required assistance. Well, now I did. "Mrs. Brooks, it's good to hear from you. How are you?" "I'm quite well, Mr. Davies. I need to see you urgently. I've discovered some documents from Arthur that I don't quite comprehend." "Certainly. You can come to my office tomorrow morning. I'll be there." That night, for the first time in months, I slept profoundly. I dreamt of Arthur. He was seated in his favorite armchair, engrossed in the newspaper, just as he did every morning. And when he noticed me, he smiled and said, "It's about time, my love. It's about time you asserted yourself." I awoke with an unfamiliar sensation. It wasn't precisely joy, yet it was also far removed from the persistent sorrow that had clouded my existence for several months. It was, rather, a sense of resolve. For the first time since the passing of my husband, Julian, a definite goal emerged. I was poised to reclaim what was rightfully mine, though not in the manner my daughter, Serena, anticipated. The subsequent morning, I dressed with an unusual degree of deliberation. I chose my plum-colored gown, the very one Julian always said lent me an air of grace. I styled my hair carefully and applied a touch of makeup. Gazing into the mirror, I beheld a woman I hadn't recognized in an age, a woman of formidable strength. Mr. Harrison's office was situated downtown, in a venerable yet elegant building adorned with marble floors and expansive windows. He greeted me with a congenial smile, but upon reviewing the documents I presented, his expression profoundly altered. "Mrs. Caldwell, this far exceeds my initial understanding. Julian was an exceptionally astute individual. According to these papers, you are the proprietor of—" "I'm aware, Mr. Harrison. I've already examined them. What I require is your legal counsel on my options." Mr. Harrison clarified that everything was impeccable. The documents were authentic, confirming my legal ownership of all the properties involved. He also validated a suspicion I had harbored. The sale of the seaside residence was illicit, as Serena possessed no right to dispose of it. "We can reclaim the house immediately, Mrs. Caldwell, and initiate legal proceedings against your daughter for fraud." "No, Mr. Harrison. I don't wish to pursue legal action. I prefer a different approach. For now, I need everything to remain confidential. Can you assist me with this?" He regarded me with curiosity before nodding. "Certainly. You are my client. What is it you require?" "I need you to discreetly recover the seaside home. Take all necessary steps to nullify that fraudulent transaction. And I need your help in establishing unequivocal control over all my assets, especially the building where my daughter resides." "I understand. This will be a multi-week process, but it's entirely feasible." "Perfect. And Mr. Harrison, I need no one to know I am behind any of this, at least for now." As I departed his office, I felt as though I had awakened from an extended slumber. I walked through the downtown thoroughfares, observing the passers-by, the architecture, the vibrant life unfolding as usual. But for me, everything had shifted. I had a strategy. The ensuing weeks proved to be the most peculiar of my life. Officially, I remained the impoverished widow, seemingly forsaken by her daughter. Yet, in secrecy, I was a wealthy woman, subtly orchestrating the retrieval of my holdings. Mr. Harrison worked with remarkable efficiency, phoning me every few days with updates on the legal progression. I decided to remain in my current home for the time being. It was mine, after all, though Serena likely expected me to move into a tiny room. Each morning I would awaken, partake in breakfast at the same table where Julian and I had shared so many years, then embark on a stroll through the neighborhood. My neighbors greeted me with that familiar blend of sympathy and inquisitiveness reserved for recent widows. Alara, my lifelong neighbor, approached me one afternoon as I tended to the front garden. "Antonia, dear, is it true that Serena went to Europe and left you all alone?" "Yes, Alara. She left with Edward. They have some business ventures over there." "And how will you manage, sweetie? We all know Julian didn't leave much money." "If only you knew," I mused. "Don't worry, Alara. I'll be fine." "Do you need anything? I can bring you some food, help with groceries." "You're very kind, but I am truly fine." Alara regarded me with that familiar expression, the same look I had encountered after the funeral. Compassion laced with a hint of relief that the misfortune wasn't hers. "Well, you know where to find me if you need anything." Such conversations recurred constantly. The butcher, the baker, the proprietor of the corner shop. Everyone addressed me in that gentle tone, reserved for the unfortunate, and I would nod, smile, and express my gratitude for their concern. But inwardly, a part of me relished this charade. It was like living a bifurcated existence. Mr. Harrison contacted me one Wednesday morning. "Mrs. Caldwell, I have excellent news. I've successfully nullified the sale of the seaside property. The buyers were unaware the transaction was fraudulent, so they received their funds back without complications. The house is yours once more." "Excellent, Mr. Harrison. And the building where Serena resides?" "That one is more intricate. Technically, you've always been the owner through the company, but we need to implement some administrative adjustments to grant you direct control. That should take another 2 weeks." "Perfect. Keep me informed." After ending the call, I sat in the kitchen with my coffee, contemplating Serena. She had been in Europe for 3 weeks, and not a single word had reached me. No call, no message, not even a postcard. To her, I had ceased to exist the moment she acquired the funds she needed. But I knew that was about to change, very soon. I decided to visit the seaside house. I took the bus to the coast, following the very route Julian and I had traversed countless times. The house remained precisely as I remembered it, modest, cream-colored, with a veranda overlooking the ocean. The new occupants had placed a few potted plants on the steps, but apart from that, nothing had altered. I sat on the curb across the street, gazing at it for an hour. I recalled summer afternoons when little Serena would race on the beach, constructing sandcastles, Julian grilling fish on the barbecue while I prepared salads in the kitchen. Serena bringing friends, then boyfriends, then Edward. All those precious memories she had reduced to a mere commercial exchange. An elderly gentleman emerged from the house and noticed me sitting there. He approached with curiosity. "Are you all right, ma'am?" "Yes, thank you. Just reminiscing." "I knew the former owners." "Yes, I knew them very well." "What a shame about what happened." "They told us the elderly lady was very ill and needed to sell quickly. We thought it was a steal, but it turns out the sale wasn't legal. We had to return the house." "Did you know them personally?" "No. We conducted everything through intermediaries, but they informed us the daughter was handling everything because her mother was unable to." What a truly sad situation, I thought. If only you knew how sad it really was. "Well, I'm glad you didn't lose your money." "Yes. Fortunately, everything was resolved favorably. Although now we must search for another house. We were quite fond of this one." I departed with a heavy heart. It wasn't merely the financial loss that stung. It was the effortless way Serena had fabricated lies about me. She had spun a narrative of my supposed illness, using my apparent vulnerability to justify her actions. To her, I was not a person with feelings, but an impediment to be cleared from her path. That evening, I telephoned Mr. Harrison once more. "Mr. Harrison, I need your assistance with something further. I also wish to reclaim Julian's pickup truck." "That will be more challenging, Mrs. Caldwell. The truck was registered in your name, but your daughter possessed a power of attorney that authorized her to sell it." "How is that possible?" "Apparently, you signed that power of attorney a few months ago, after your husband's demise. Do you not recall?" There it was, the precise moment Serena had begun to meticulously plan all of this. I vaguely remembered signing some documents she had presented to me, assuring me they were merely to facilitate the funeral and inheritance arrangements. I had been so engulfed by grief that I signed without reading. How incredibly naive I had been. "I understand, Mr. Harrison. Is there any means to recover it?" "We can attempt it, but it will be more complicated. We would need to establish that you signed that power of attorney under duress or deception." "Let's do it. I intend to retrieve everything they took from me." Over the subsequent weeks, a peculiar routine took shape in my life. In the mornings, I embodied the sorrowful widow everyone knew. I would venture out for necessities, engage in small talk with neighbors, maintaining appearances. But in the afternoons, I transformed into a shrewd businesswoman. I would pore over Julian's financial documents, confer with Mr. Harrison, and strategize my next move. I acquired knowledge about finance I never imagined I'd need. I discovered that Julian had been far cannier than I had given him credit for. Every one of his investments had been painstakingly calculated. The building where Serena resided, for instance, wasn't solely profitable from rent. It was situated in an area experiencing rapid appreciation. I also uncovered that Edward, Serena's husband, was burdened by substantial debt. He had secured loans using the apartment they occupied as collateral, oblivious that he wasn't its true owner. When the banks eventually uncovered this, he would face grave repercussions. Mr. Harrison phoned me one Friday with significant news. "Mrs. Caldwell, we finalized all the paperwork. You now possess complete control of all your properties." I also managed to retrieve Julian's truck. The buyer happened to be an acquaintance of mine, and upon explaining the situation, he agreed to return it in exchange for a modest compensation. "Excellent work, Mr. Harrison. Now I need you to assist me with one more thing. I want you to send a letter to my daughter." "What kind of letter?" "An eviction notice." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. "Mrs. Caldwell, are you certain you wish to proceed with this?" "Completely certain. She deemed me inconsequential in her life. Now she will discover just how important I truly am." "I understand. Do you wish me to send it To Europe? No, I want you to deliver it to her when she returns. I have a premonition that will be very soon. I was not mistaken. That very afternoon, Alara rushed to my house, brimming with fresh neighborhood gossip. Antonia, did you hear that Edward is in trouble with the bank? My brother-in-law, who works there, told me they're investigating some loans he took out, using the apartment they live in as collateral. But it turns out the apartment isn't his. Really? Yes. And it seems Serena knew nothing. They're saying she's going to have to return from Europe to sort out this mess. What a complicated situation. Indeed. What made it worse was the fresh revelation that Edward's tales of European business ventures were utterly fabricated. He had merely sought an escape from his burgeoning local debts. Perfect. Events were unfolding precisely as I had foreseen. Angela, who had placed her faith in him, severing ties with me for his sake, was now confronting the stark reality of his true character. That evening, I retreated to the porch, a cup of tea warming my hands, to gaze at the constellations. Robert, my late husband, often mused that stars were the souls of those who had lived fulfilling lives, watching over their loved ones from the heavens. If his words held an ounce of truth, then he was surely up there, observing his carefully orchestrated scheme reach its crescendo. Thank you, my dearest, I whispered to the vast expanse above. Thank you for sheltering me, even from beyond the grave. The following morning, Mr. Peterson's call came unusually early. Mrs. Brooks, I have news. Your daughter has just landed in the country. She's at the airport, alone. Alone? Indeed. It appears Edward remained in Europe. Rumors suggest a significant quarrel. I see. Did you dispatch the letter? It's going out today. She should receive it tomorrow. I ended the call and stood in the kitchen, a potent concoction of apprehension and exhilaration swirling within me. After weeks of silent strategizing, the moment for the initial substantial move had finally arrived. Angela was on the verge of discovering that her mother was far from the vulnerable figure she imagined. Angela's return to her apartment transpired on Tuesday evening. My intelligence came from Aurora, whose network of local informants truly seemed unparalleled. She reported, Antonia, your daughter came back last night. I witnessed her carrying a single suitcase. She seemed utterly undone pale, dark circles beneath her eyes, as if she'd wept throughout the entire flight. Utterly alone. And a strange detail, Antonia. When the doorman requested her keys, she didn't have them. She had to summon the superintendent for an emergency entry. Interesting. Edward possessed the keys, which strongly implied he had no intention of returning. Or perhaps Angela had unearthed something about him and fled. Regardless, my daughter was back, and my small welcome gift would soon find its way to her. Mr. Peterson contacted me later that very afternoon. Mrs. Brooks, the letter was delivered an hour ago. The doorman confirmed your daughter received it personally. Excellent. What time frame did we allocate? 30 days to vacate the premises, as per legal stipulation. But Mrs. Brooks, are you certain you wish to proceed? She is your own daughter, after all. Mr. Peterson, my daughter summarily evicted me from my home with a 2-minute phone call. She disposed of my belongings without consultation. She treated me as if I were refuse. Now, she will learn that actions carry consequences. I understand. I merely wished to ensure you had weighed all the implications. I have, Mr. Peterson. Every single one. That night, sleep eluded me. I lay awake, replaying Angela's reaction to the letter in my mind. The initial bewilderment, then incredulity, followed by sheer panic. She would likely assume it was a prank, a convoluted scam. Yet, upon her verification calls, she would unearth the chilling truth. Everything was entirely within legal bounds. The next day, as if anticipating my call, the telephone rang at 8 a.m. It was Angela, her voice edged with desperation. Mom, I urgently need to speak with you. Good morning, dear. How was Europe? Mom, this isn't the time for that. I received a most peculiar letter yesterday. It states I must vacate my apartment in 30 days. It must be a mistake, right? Do you know anything about this? An eviction notice. How peculiar. From whom? From a company I've never heard of. It's called... Wait, let me find the letter. Robert Investments, Inc. Do you recognize this company? Robert had used his own name. How perfectly poetic. No, darling. That name is utterly unfamiliar. Are you certain the letter is legitimate? That's precisely what I intend to discover. Mom, I need your help. I don't know what to do. Edward abandoned me in Europe. He fled with another woman, and now I return to this. I cannot fathom what is happening. There was the confirmation. Edward had forsaken her. Likely once the funds dwindled, or when he grasped the true gravity of his domestic legal entanglements. Poor Angela. She had sacrificed her family for such a hollow man. I am so sorry, darling. Where are you now? I'm in the apartment, but I don't know for how much longer. Mom, may I come to you? I need to speak with someone. I have no one else. The irony was exquisite. Now that she was left adrift by the very man for whom she had cast me aside, she remembered she had a mother. Of course, dear. Come whenever you wish. I'm on my way. I hung up and surveyed my reflection. This performance demanded perfection. I donned my most subdued gray dress, fastened my hair in a simple chignon, and practiced the expression of a worried yet stoic mother. When Angela arrived, she would see precisely what she expected, a fragile, pitiable widow forsaken by her own offspring. Angela appeared an hour later. Upon opening the door, I was startled by her deteriorated appearance. She had visibly thinned, deep shadows etched beneath her eyes, and her once expensive attire was now wrinkled and disheveled. Her eyes were swollen and red from incessant weeping. "Mom," she uttered, and for a fleeting instant I anticipated an embrace, but she halted, as if suddenly recalling the bitter end of our last encounter. "Come in, dear. Would you care for some coffee?" "Yes, please." We settled at the kitchen table, the very same one where I had pored over Robert's documents weeks prior. Angela seemed diminished in that chair, lost just as she had been as a child, confiding her school troubles. "Mom, I am so sorry for the way I left. I know I didn't treat you well." "That's all in the past, darling." "No, it isn't. I behaved abominably towards you. I uttered dreadful things, and now..." Her voice fractured. "Now I have no one." "What transpired with Edward?" "He absconded with a 25-year-old hotel waitress in Paris. It turns out there was never any business in Europe. It was all a deception. He merely sought to evade his debts here, using the proceeds from your house sale to finance his escapade." "All the debts?" "Yes, Mom. Such staggering debts. Apparently, he had been securing loans for years, using the apartment we lived in as collateral. But now I discover he wasn't even the owner of the apartment." "How is that even possible?" This was my moment. "I don't know, dear. Property matters can be incredibly intricate. The predicament now is that the banks are pursuing me for his debts. They claim that since we were married, I am equally responsible. And on top of that, this eviction notice. Mom, I have no idea what to do. I have no money. I have no job. I have no place to live." She began to weep, tears of genuine, heart-wrenching desperation pooling in her eyes. For a moment, my maternal instincts softened. I yearned to embrace her, to comfort her, to assure her that all would be well. But then I recalled the frigidity in her voice when she called me from the doctor's office. The casual ease with which she had discarded me. The way she had spoken to me as if I were a burden. "Did you consult a lawyer about the letter?" "I don't have money for a lawyer, Mom. We spent everything in Europe. Edward took what little remained when he bolted with that woman." "So, what are your intentions?" "I don't know. I thought perhaps I could stay with you for a while, just until I find a job and can secure a small place of my own." There it was, the question I had anticipated. After casting me out of my own home, after selling my possessions, after treating me with utter contempt, she now sought my rescue. She wanted the impoverished widow she had created to save her from the harvest of her own choices. Of course, dear, this will always be your home. Angela stared at me, surprise etched on her features, as if she hadn't expected such an easy capitulation. Truly, Mom, after everything that happened. You are my daughter, Angela. That will never change. She rose, and this time she embraced me. It was a desperate, drowning embrace, clinging to the only anchor she could find. I returned her hug, but not with the unconditional affection of before. Now my embrace held calculation, strategy. Thank you, Mom. I promise I'll find a job soon. I won't be a burden. Don't concern yourself with that now. Rest, recover, and then we will examine your options. Angela departed that afternoon to collect some belongings from her apartment. I lingered in the kitchen, musing on the effortless victory. She had come to me precisely as I had planned, broken, desperate, without alternatives, and most crucially, utterly unsuspecting. To her, I remained the pathetic, abandoned mother who required her compassion. But this was merely the initial chapter of my intricate plan. Having her reside with me would provide the perfect conduit for the ensuing phase. I would allow her to settle in, to feel secure, to believe she had found a sanctuary within my walls. And then, when she least expected it, I would illuminate for her the profound distinction between choosing a life of hardship and enduring the hardship brought on by one's own poor decisions. That night, I called Mr. Peterson. Mr. Peterson, I require your assistance with something further. Tell me, Mrs. Brooks. I need you to thoroughly investigate Edward's debts. I want a precise understanding of his obligations, to whom they are owed, and what legal avenues exist to disentangle my daughter from them. That will necessitate time, but it is certainly achievable. Excellent. And Mr. Peterson, I insist upon absolute discretion regarding this matter. No one must discover my involvement in this investigation. Of course, Mrs. Brooks, may I inquire about your ultimate objective? My objective, Mr. Peterson, is quite straightforward. I am going to save my daughter. But first, she must fully grasp the true meaning of hitting rock bottom. When I concluded the call, I poured myself a glass of the wine Robert had reserved for truly special occasions. It had been an extended period since an occasion such as this had graced my life. The game had begun, and for the first time in months, I held all the advantageous cards. Angela moved into my house the following day. With 2 suitcases and a solitary cardboard box, the remnants of her former life, she appeared at the door. I observed her as she unpacked in what used to be her teenage sanctuary, that same room, and each motion spoke volumes of her mortification. Her journey from a lavish condominium to the confines of her childhood bedroom was stark. Mother, I discovered this in the apartment, she announced, presenting a manila envelope. It was tucked among Edward's possessions. Your name is on it. It was another missive penned by Robert. My pulse quickened, yet I maintained my outward calm. My name? How peculiar. Indeed, take a look. She extended the envelope. Robert's familiar script undeniably adorned it with my name, but this particular envelope differed from the one I'd retrieved from my dresser. It was smaller, newer. Perhaps Edward had stumbled upon it among father's belongings after his passing and simply forgotten to hand it over to me. Angelique mused. That's plausible. May I examine it? In her presence, I slid open the envelope. Inside, a brief letter accompanied a diminutive key. The letter read, Antonia, if you are reading this after receiving the primary envelope, it signals that our daughter is enduring a trying period. This key provides access to Safety Deposit Box 247 at the downtown Central Bank. Within it lies something that can assist you in aiding her, but wield it with discretion, with everlasting love, Robert. Angelique peered over my shoulder, absorbing the words. A safety deposit box? Father had one? I had no inkling. she breathed. Nor did I lied smoothly. Your father never shared this with me. Do you think we should investigate its contents? I don't know, dear. Perhaps it's wiser to let dormant things remain. But mother, what if it holds something vital, documents, or perhaps something valuable that could offer us succor? Her voice, laced with despair, was palpable. Angelique grasped at any flicker of hope to escape her predicament, and I resolved to let her cling a little longer before revealing the full, harsh truth. Very well, I conceded, after a measured pause. We can go tomorrow. That evening, Angelique and I shared a meal, a rare occasion in months. She had prepared it, a quiet effort to be useful, but the food was tinged with the flavor of guilt and desperation. She divulged further details of her European ordeal, each revelation more dismal than the last. Edward was a charlatan about everything, mother, not just the business, but the debts too. I imagined he only owed a pittance, but it turns out he's over 100,000 in the hole. And the most egregious part is he used my identity for some of the loans without my consent. How is that even possible? He forged my signature. When we married, I entrusted him with some paperwork to manage the banking for our joint account. I never conceived he'd exploit them in this manner. Do you possess any means to demonstrate your ignorance? I honestly don't know. It's all so convoluted. The banks contend that since we were married, I'm liable for all his debts regardless. And the divorce? I don't even know where Edward is now. He simply vanished. His phone is disconnected. He ignores emails. Nothing. It's as if he evaporated into thin air. Excellent. Edward had absconded like the vermin he always was, abandoning Angelique to face the repercussions of her choices alone. In a twisted way, he had done me a service. Now, my daughter was experiencing precisely what I had endured when he deserted me. Betrayal by someone she had unreservedly trusted. I'm so deeply sorry, dearest. I hadn't realized matters were so dire. Neither had I, mother. I truly believed Edward loved me, that we were destined to build a life together, but it seems I was merely a convenient vessel for him to acquire money and documents. Angelique began to weep anew. How could I have been so foolish? How did I fail to see his true colors? It was tempting to point out that I had seen the red flags from the outset, that I had attempted to warn her Edward was never trustworthy, but that would have shattered my facade as a compassionate, fragile mother. Love can be blinding sometimes, dear. Don't cast blame upon yourself. But, mother, I didn't just ruin my own life. I ruined yours, too. I treated you abominably. I took your house, your vehicle, your belongings, all to lavish them on a man who abandoned me at the first opportunity. Now we are two impoverished women striving to survive because of my folly. That's in the past, Angelique. We will be fine. No, it's not. Now we're both entangled in trouble because of my blunders. You forfeited everything Father bequeathed to you, and I lost my marriage and my future. We're two destitute women attempting to persevere. If only she knew, I mused, that at this very moment I possessed more wealth than she could possibly imagine, that I was the owner of the building she inhabited, that I could resolve all her dilemmas with a single phone call. But the time was not yet ripe. The following day, we visited the bank. Angelique was visibly anxious, yet hopeful. I maintained my charade as a perplexed widow, unschooled in financial matters. The bank official escorted us to the safety deposit boxes, verified my identification, and opened to box number 247. Inside lay jewels, an abundance of them rings, necklaces, bracelets, earrings. I recognized certain pieces as heirlooms from Robert's lineage. Others were entirely unfamiliar to me. There was also a letter explicating the provenance of each item and its approximate valuation. Angelique gasped. Mother, this must be worth a king's ransom. Do you honestly think so? Yes, just look at this emerald in this pearl necklace. Mother, Father safeguarded a veritable treasure here. According to Robert's letter, The jewels were appraised at roughly 200,000. It was a substantial sum, yet paltry compared to the rest of my holdings. It was akin to discovering a few coins beneath the sofa when $1 million resided in the bank. What do we do with this, Mother? I don't know, dear. They are family memories. But, Mother, we could liquidate some of the pieces. With this capital, you could reclaim your beach house, and I could settle some of Edward's debts. There it was again. Even upon discovering something valuable, Angelique's immediate impulse was directed towards leveraging it to mitigate the problems Edward had created. She had not yet learned a thing. Are you truly resolved to employ your father's inheritance to discharge Edward's obligations? What other recourse do I have, Mother? If I don't initiate payments soon, the banks will seize everything I possess. And technically, I own nothing. Everything was in Edward's name. Reflect carefully, dear. Once you divest yourself of these jewels, there's no retrieving them. I know, but what alternative is there? I can't secure employment with all these pending legal claims. No employer will be inclined to hire someone with so many legal entanglements. We transported the jewels home. Angelique arrayed them on the kitchen table and meticulously examined each one, calculating which she could sell and which she might retain. It was heart-wrenching to witness her reduce decades of family heritage to mere figures on a spreadsheet. Mother, I believe I can fetch 180,000 for the jewels, she announced one afternoon, tallying bills on the kitchen table. It's less than I anticipated, but it's sufficient to address the most pressing debts. Are you certain you wish to proceed with this? I have no choice. If I don't make payment soon, they'll confiscate everything. Even this house could be imperiled if they establish any legal link between me and the properties. How ironic the situation was. Angelique worried about losing a house I owned, paying the debts of a man who had abandoned her with money from jewels that had belonged to the very man who had amassed the fortune that could save her. And how will you determine which debts to prioritize? I consulted with a pro bono financial advisor at the bank. She advised me to give precedence to debts with tangible collateral, as those are the ones that can impact property or instigate immediate foreclosure. Angelique had matured considerably in these few weeks. The woman who had unceremoniously sold my possessions was now meticulously scrutinizing every financial decision. The suffering had rendered her more responsible, yet also more brittle. That night, as she organized the debt documents on the table, I received a call from Mr. Peterson. Mrs. Brooks, I have a comprehensive report on Edward's debts. The situation is graver than I initially perceived. How much graver? He owes over 200,000 to multiple banks, and also has liabilities with private lenders. What's more distressing is that he utilized falsified documents bearing your daughter's signature for some of these loans. That implies Angelique bears legal responsibility. It's complicated. If we can substantiate her lack of knowledge, we might be able to extricate her from some of the debts. But it will be a protracted and costly endeavor. How costly? For a skilled attorney specializing in these types of cases. Likely 50,000, and there's no assurance of success. I understand. And what if she simply pays the debts? If she possesses the funds, that would be the swiftest resolution, but I doubt she has access to such an amount. Mr. Peterson, I require you to prepare all the necessary documentation to absolve my daughter of these debts, but do not inform her yet. You are going to cover it, Mrs. Brooks. I am going to do whatever is necessary to shield my daughter, but this must be handled with extreme precision. When I concluded the call, I discovered Angelique in the living room, contemplating the jewels with a melancholic expression. She appeared utterly lost, like a child who had broken a cherished toy and was at a loss for how to repair it. What are you pondering, dearest? About father? about how utterly disappointed he would be in me if he could witness what I've done with my life. Your father loved you immensely, Angelique. He would understand. No, mother. He instilled in me responsibility, the value of family, not selfishness, and I did the exact opposite. I abandoned my mother for a man who proved to be a liar. I bartered my family's memories for money. I destroyed everything he painstakingly built. For the first time since her return, I perceived genuine remorse in her voice. It wasn't merely lamenting the consequences of her actions, but a true acknowledgement of having committed something morally wrong. People make mistakes, dear. The crucial thing is to learn from them. But how do I recover from this, mother? How do I mend the damage I've caused? That was the precise inquiry I had anticipated. Serena was finally prepared to confront the reality of her choices and their repercussions. Yet, the moment for my ultimate disclosure had not quite arrived. First, I needed her to reach rock bottom completely. The subsequent days were pivotal for my carefully constructed scheme. Serena resolved to divest most of her jewels, retaining only the engagement ring Roderick had given me and a delicate necklace that had belonged to her grandmother. I observed her as she made preparations to visit jewelers, investigate market values, and engage with prospective purchasers. It was agonizing to witness her liquidating decades of family heritage into mere commercial transactions, but it was essential for her to grasp the true magnitude of her judgments. Mother, I secured $180,000 for the jewelry, she informed me one afternoon, counting the banknotes on the kitchen table. It's less than I had hoped, but sufficient to settle the most pressing liabilities. Are you certain you wish to proceed with this? I inquired. I have no alternative. If I don't make some payments soon, they'll seize everything. Even this home could be jeopardized if they establish any legal linkage between me and the properties. The situation was rife with irony. Serena fretted over losing a house that I owned, settling the debts of a man who had abandoned her, using funds from jewels that had belonged to the very man who had amassed the wealth that could save her. And how will you determine which debts to prioritize? I pressed. I consulted a pro bono financial advisor at the bank. She advised prioritizing debts with tangible collateral, as those carry the risk of impacting property or leading to immediate foreclosure. Serena had matured so profoundly in these mere weeks. The woman who had freely disposed of my possessions without a word was now meticulously scrutinizing every financial choice. Suffering had rendered her more accountable, yet also more brittle. That night, as she organized the debt documents on the table, I received a call from Mr. Harrison. Mrs. Albright, he began, I have significant news. We've managed to locate Maxwell. Where is he? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. In Paris, precisely as your daughter suspected. But here's the intriguing detail. He's attempting to obtain French residency through a sham marriage with that young woman your daughter mentioned. A sham marriage? I echoed, disbelief coloring my tone. Indeed. Apparently, the girl requires legal papers, and he needs a means to remain in Europe without facing deportation. But most importantly, we've uncovered conclusive evidence that he deliberately fabricated your daughter's documents with the clear intention of absconding from the country. This means Serena can be absolved of these debts. With this evidence, yes, we can establish fraud and coercion. Your daughter will not be held liable for Maxwell's actions behind her back. It was perfect. I now possessed a legal avenue to free Serena from all her obligations, without her ever suspecting that I held the financial means to do so. Mr. Harrison, I want you to initiate the legal proceedings immediately. Do not inform my daughter yet. I wish for the process to be fully concluded before I reveal anything. I don't want to offer her false hope. Understood, he affirmed. This will likely require about 3 weeks, perhaps a month. Perfect, I concluded. When I ended the call, Serena looked at me with inquisitive eyes. "Who was that, Mother?" "A lady inquiring about Mrs. Davies, our neighbor on the corner." She had misdialed. Lying had become disturbingly effortless. With each passing day, I felt more comfortable navigating this double existence. On one hand, I was the impoverished, forsaken mother Serena believed me to be. On the other, I was a woman of means, quietly orchestrating my daughter's rescue and re-education. Over the subsequent fortnight, I observed Serena grappling with decisions she had never before encountered: how to ration funds for sustenance, how to negotiate with creditors, how to secure employment when one's financial history is compromised. It was a harsh but vital education. "Mother, I attended 3 job interviews today," she confided one evening, returning home with swollen feet and a weary expression. 2 of them stated they couldn't hire me due to the pending legal complications. The third offered me a part-time position cleaning offices at night. "Are you going to accept it?" I asked, my heart aching. "I have no choice. It pays very little, but it's preferable to nothing, and I can work at night, which allows me to continue searching for something better during the day." Witnessing my daughter, who had enjoyed a life of privilege for over 4 decades, preparing to scrub offices at night, pierced my heart. But it also filled me with a quiet pride. She was finally confronting reality, without relying on others to resolve her dilemmas. "Are you certain you can manage such strenuous physical labor?" I questioned. "I will have to learn. I cannot continue to be a burden to you, Mother. It is already unfortunate that you permit me to reside here without charge." "This is your home, Serena." "No, Mother, this is your home, and I am here due to your generosity, but I will not take advantage of it indefinitely." One night, while Serena was on her inaugural cleaning shift, Evangeline came to visit. She sat with me in the kitchen, sipping tea and gazing at the family photographs adorning the walls. "Antonia, I must ask you something. Did you anticipate Serena returning under these circumstances?" "What do you mean?" I replied, feigning ignorance. "Well, when she departed, she seemed so self-assured, so arrogant. She spoke of the grand life she was destined for in Europe, of Maxwell's immense success. And now she's back, utterly broken, working a cleaning job, living with you again." "Life takes many unpredictable turns, Evangeline," I murmured. "Yes, but there's something more. I've been watching Serena these past few days, and she appears different. Not merely sorrowful, but humbled, as if she has absorbed a profound lesson." Evangeline had always possessed a keen perception. "What do you believe she has learned?" "I believe she has learned the true worth of the things she once took for granted, such as having a mother who loves her unconditionally." "Perhaps." Evangeline paused, then continued. "Antonia, may I tell you something? When Serena left and treated you so harshly, many of us believed you would never forgive her. But here you are, caring for her again, offering her a home when she has nowhere else to go." "She is my daughter, Evangeline." "Yes, but not every mother would do what you are doing, especially after being treated in such a manner." If only Evangeline knew the complete truth, that I possessed the power to alleviate all of Serena's troubles, yet chose to let her endure a little longer, allowing the lesson to fully sink in. "Do you think I'm doing the right thing?" I inquired, testing her. "I believe you are doing what a good mother would do, but I also think Serena needs to fully comprehend what she forfeited when she abandoned you." "What do you mean?" I pressed, curious to hear her insight. "I think she needs to appreciate you, not merely as the mother who rescues her in distress, but as the strong woman who forged a stable life for 45 years. She needs to respect you, not just need you." Evangeline had articulated the precise crux of my entire plan. I didn't want Serena to return to me out of sheer desperation. I wanted her to return out of genuine respect and a mature, heartfelt affection. And how do you believe that can come to pass? I asked, looking for reassurance. I think it is already unfolding. I've observed her these past few days, Antonia. The way she communicates with you now is entirely transformed. She is no longer the daughter who issues commands or treats you as an inconvenience. Now she is a grown woman who is genuinely grateful to have a mother like you. That night, when Serena returned from her work, I saw her, fatigued but imbued with a newfound dignity. She had earned those meager dollars through her own strenuous effort, and that held significant meaning for her. How was your initial day? I asked gently. Difficult, but not as dreadful as I had imagined. The other women working there assisted me greatly. One of them, Mrs. Davies, shared tips for more efficient cleaning. Mrs. Davies, I echoed, a flicker of recognition. Yes, she's 60 years old and has been cleaning offices for 2 decades. She told me she started after her husband abandoned her with 3 young children. She says it's not the career she envisioned, but it granted her independence and self-worth. She sounds like a sagacious woman. She is. She said something that provoked much thought in me. She told me there are 2 categories of individuals who end up in this line of work. Those who are there because they never had opportunities, and those who are there because they squandered the opportunities they did possess. She asked me which group I belonged to. And what did you tell her? I told her the truth, that I had every opportunity in the world, a loving family, a secure home, an inheritance, and that I ruined it all by following a worthless man. What was her response? She chuckled and said, "Well, honey, at least you understand precisely why you're here. That puts you 1 step ahead of most people." Serena poured herself a glass of water and joined me at the table. Mother, I want you to know something. These past few weeks have been the most challenging of my life, but also the most pivotal. And why is that, my dear? I inquired softly. Because I finally comprehend what truly matters. It isn't money. It isn't residing in the most opulent apartment. It isn't impressing others. It's having people who genuinely love you, who are there when everything crumbles. Serena, no. Let me finish. You have every right to despise me for what I did to you. I abandoned you when you needed me most. I took everything Father left you. I treated you as though you were an encumbrance. And now I'm here again, expecting your forgiveness and care. I have already forgiven you, my darling, I whispered. But I haven't forgiven myself, and I won't until I demonstrate that I have truly changed, that I have learned from my blunders. Mr. Harrison telephoned me the following morning. "Mrs. Albright," he announced, his voice brimming with satisfaction. "I have excellent news. The legal process is nearly finalized. We can effectively relieve your daughter of all of Maxwell's debts." It was time. After weeks of witnessing Serena struggle, toil, and reflect on her transgressions, the moment had finally arrived to reveal to her that she had never been truly alone, that someone had always been quietly safeguarding her. "Mr. Harrison," I instructed, "I want you to arrange a meeting. It is time for my daughter to learn the complete truth." Mr. Harrison scheduled the meeting for Friday morning at his office. I informed Eleanor that I had arranged a consultation with a solicitor who could assist her with her legal troubles, omitting the specifics. She consented, albeit expressing anxiety over the consultation fee. "Mother, I lack the funds to retain a lawyer. I barely scrape by covering essential outlays." "Do not concern yourself with that now, darling. Let us simply attend to what he conveys." We arrived punctually at the office of Mr. Thorne. Eleanor had donned her finest attire, which now appeared somewhat oversized on her slender frame. She fidgeted, wringing her hands, braced for yet another blow amidst her ceaseless trials. Mr. Thorne welcomed us with his characteristic professional demeanor. "Mrs. Brooks, Miss Brooks, thank you for coming." "Thank you for seeing us," Eleanor responded. "Though I must forewarn you, My financial circumstances are exceedingly intricate, and I likely cannot meet substantial charges. That is precisely the topic of our discussion, Mr. Thorne interjected, exchanging a glance with me. But first, I require you to examine these documents. Mr. Thorne presented Eleanor with a substantial binder. She opened it and commenced reading, her expression gradually shifting from perplexity to astonishment. I fail to comprehend. These papers assert that Robert falsified my signature, that evidence of malfeasance exists, and that I bear no responsibility for the obligations. Precisely. We have been investigating your situation for the preceding few weeks. We uncovered sufficient proof to establish you as a victim of identity deception. But how is that feasible? Who financed this inquiry? I possess no means for such an undertaking. Mr. Thorne looked towards me. This was my moment. Eleanor, there's a disclosure I must impart. What, mother? I drew a deep breath. After weeks of pretense, I was finally to unveil the truth. Your father bequeathed me more than you realized. Far more. What do you mean, Mr. Thorne? Present her with the other documents. Mr. Thorne retrieved a second folder and extended it to Eleanor. This time, the documents comprised property deeds, bank statements, investment certificates, the entirety of the covert fortune Charles had amassed. Eleanor perused them in silence for several minutes. Her countenance traversed a full spectrum of emotions: bewilderment, disbelief, shock, and ultimately, realization. Mother, this indicates you own the edifice where I resided. Indeed. And that you possess other properties, bank accounts, investments. Yes? This implies that when I disposed of the seaside dwelling, it was my residence, and the transaction was fraudulent. I have already reacquired it. Eleanor gazed at the papers, striving to absorb the information. How long have you been aware of this? Since the day you telephoned me from the physician's office. You knew all of this when I returned from overseas seeking succor? Yes. You knew you could resolve all my predicaments as you witnessed me weeping nightly? Yes. A protracted, strained silence ensued. Eleanor closed the folders and met my gaze directly. Why, mother? Why did you permit me to suffer when you possessed the means to assist me? This was the query for which I had waited weeks. Because you needed to apprehend a truth you could not otherwise learn. What? You needed to appreciate the worth of the things you had forfeited, the value of kith and kin, of esteem, of accountability. When you abandoned me, it was not merely wealth you took from me. It was dignity. It was affection. It was trust. Eleanor began to weep, but these were not the tears of self-pity she had shed throughout those weeks. They were tears of profound comprehension. I forsook you when you most needed me. Yes, I treated you like refuse. Yes, and you salvaged me nonetheless. Yes, but not in the manner you anticipated. I did not salvage you by furnishing you with money to continue your errors. I salvaged you by allowing you to plumb the depths so you could discover self-preservation. Mr. Thorne discreetly intervened. Miss Brooks, your mother has defrayed all legal expenditures to emancipate you from Robert's liabilities. She has also reclaimed all properties deceitfully sold. You are entirely free of legal complications. And the cleaning position I secured. You may relinquish it if you wish, I stated, but I hope you do not. Why? Because that occupation is imparting to you a wisdom you never gained when everything was effortless. It is teaching you the worth of your own endeavors, the honor of honest labor, the significance of valuing every dollar you earn. Eleanor dabbed her tears and regarded me with an expression I had not witnessed in years. It was not the gaze of a progeny in need of her parent, but the gaze of an adult woman who respects another woman. Do you absolve me, mother? I absolved you long ago, my dear. The question is, can you absolve yourself? I do not know if I can. I committed unforgivable acts. Humans err, Eleanor. The crucial aspect is what we undertake after acknowledging those missteps. Mr. Thorne afforded us a few minutes of privacy in his office. Eleanor and I sat in silence, processing the entirety of what had transpired. Mother, there is something I wish you to know. Even if you possessed none of this fortune, even if you were truly the impoverished widow I perceived, I would have assimilated the same lesson. Which lesson? That there exists nothing more precious than having someone who cherishes you without reservation. Throughout these past weeks, the sole thing that preserved my sanity was the knowledge I had a sanctuary with you, that no matter how thoroughly I had ruined my existence, you remained my mother. That will never alter, Eleanor. I know, but I also know that I can never again take that affection for granted. I must earn it daily through respect, through gratitude, through actions, not merely utterances. We exited Mr. Thorne's office with a wholly transformed dynamic. We were no longer parent and child, bound by lineage and custom. We were two grown women who had chosen each other after enduring the most formidable ordeal conceivable. The ensuing weeks were dedicated to reconstruction, yet not the kind Eleanor anticipated. Despite now knowing I possessed ample resources to resolve all her difficulties, she elected to maintain her nocturnal cleaning occupation. Mother, I must complete what I commenced, she informed me one afternoon as she prepared for work. I cannot simply revert to a life of ease, as if nothing occurred. Are you certain? You need not perpetually chastise yourself. It is not chastisement. It is a means of recalling who I was and who I aspire to be now. I observed her donning her work uniform, an unthinkable act mere months prior when she resided in the opulent flat with Robert. But there was a discernible difference in her stance, in her movements. She was no longer the broken woman who had arrived weeping at my threshold. She was someone who had found dignity in honest toil. Clara visited me that afternoon, as she had every few days since Eleanor's return. Antonia, there are some rather peculiar rumors circulating within the neighborhood. What sort of rumors? People are suggesting you are not as impecunious as we all assumed. Someone observed Eleanor departing a very distinguished solicitor's office downtown, and subsequently they saw her settling all her debts at the bank. People are quite talkative, Clara. Indeed, but they are also asserting you retrieved your seaside dwelling, and that somehow you managed to resolve all of Eleanor's legal dilemmas. That entails considerable expense, Antonia. Clara knew me too well for prolonged deception. What precisely do you wish to ascertain? I wish to ascertain if my friend of 40 years has been dissembling to me about her circumstances. I poured myself a cup of tea and settled opposite her. It was time to be forthright with someone else. Charles left me more than anyone perceived, Clara. Far more. How much more? Enough that Eleanor and I will never again need to fret about money. Clara fell silent for a moment, processing the information. And why did you feign poverty for all these months? Because I needed Eleanor to apprehend a truth she could not otherwise learn. I recounted the entire narrative, Eleanor's cruel telephone call, my scheme of silent retribution, the weeks of observing her hit rock bottom, and finally, the revelation in Mr. Thorne's office. Antonia, that is both brilliant and formidable simultaneously. Formidable? Yes, because you permitted your own daughter to suffer when you could have aided her immediately. But also brilliant, because I comprehend your motivation. You do? Yes. Eleanor needed to internalize the value of what she had lost. Had you simply given her money to solve her problems, she would have learned that there is always someone to rescue her from the repercussions of her poor decisions. Precisely. But Antonia, did it not pain you to witness her suffering? Every day, every night I saw her weeping. Every morning I saw her rising for work, exhausted and defeated. But I knew that if I intervened too soon, she would not have grasped the full lesson. And do you believe she learned it? Observe for yourself. Eleanor knows she now has access to sufficient funds to live comfortably, yet she chose to retain her job. She knows she can relocate to a superior residence, but she decided to remain here with me. She knows she need not concern herself with her debts, but she is utilizing her own savings to assist other women in analogous predicaments. She is aiding other women? Yes, she befriended the women with whom she works and is employing some of the earnings from cleaning offices to help a colleague struggling to cover her son's childcare. Clara smiled. That is not the Eleanor who journeyed to Europe. No, she is not. This Eleanor understands that money is a tool, not an objective. She understands that dignity stems from labor and respect, not from material possessions. That night, when Eleanor returned from work, she found me reading in the living room. Mama, I must tell you something. Today Mrs. Davies inquired if I was the daughter of the affluent lady from the north side of town. What did you tell her? I said yes, that you possess sufficient funds for me not to have to work. And do you know what she asked me next? What? She asked me why I was still working. So I elucidated that it was because I need to prove to myself that I can stand on my own 2 feet. And what did she respond? She chuckled and said, Honey, that is the distinction between being wealthy and appearing wealthy. Your mother truly instilled in you the essence of genuine affluence. Mrs. Albright possesses profound wisdom. Indeed, she does. She imparted a vital understanding. True wealth isn't merely about accumulated funds, but profoundly about their application and your relationship with them. Clara settled beside me on the sofa. Mother, I want you to know I've made a firm decision. I'm choosing to remain here with you, but not as a returning child to her parents. I wish to stay as a fully fledged woman who deliberately chooses to share her life with her mother. What's the distinction? I inquired. The distinction is that I intend to bear my share of household expenditures. I will contribute to the maintenance of this home, and I will approach this relationship as an alliance between 2 independent women who cherish and honor each other. Clara, there's no need for you to do that. Yes, there is. Mother, our relationship needs to evolve beyond what it once was. Previously, I was a daughter who took your affection and solicitude for granted. Now I aspire to be a mature woman who values and safeguards the most important connection in her life. And your employment? I asked. I'll continue working, but not necessarily cleaning offices indefinitely. I want to resume my education. I aim to prepare myself for something more substantive in my life, yet I want to achieve it incrementally, earning each step forward. Do you have any field of study in mind? Yes, I plan to pursue social work. These past few weeks have illuminated how many individuals navigate challenging circumstances without any source of support. I want to leverage the resources we possess to assist other women who are enduring what I experienced. Her resolve was flawless. Clara had not only learned to appreciate what she had, but she had also discovered a means to channel her past into something affirmative. And as for Edward? Mr. Harrison informed me he was apprehended in France for the fraudulent marriage. He's slated for deportation shortly, but honestly, Mother, his fate no longer concerns me. That chapter of my life is definitively closed. Do you harbor no resentment? I probed. None. Edward, unbeknownst to him, rendered me a service. Had he not abandoned and betrayed me, I never would have reached such a low point. And without hitting rock bottom, I would never have truly comprehended the value of what I possess. That evening, for the first time in months, I retired feeling utterly tranquil. My careful plan had unfolded perfectly. Clara had not only absorbed the essential lessons, but she had risen from the ordeal a stronger, wiser, and more empathetic individual. Robert would have been immensely proud. 6 months later, Our lives had settled into a new equilibrium, one neither of us could have previously envisioned. Clara excelled in her social work studies with outstanding grades, and I resolved to dedicate some of my assets to establishing a foundation supporting women in situations of domestic violence and financial abandonment. "Mother, the university's letter arrived," Clara announced one morning, entering the kitchen with an envelope. "I've been accepted into the master's program. I begin next semester. But, Mother, I want you to know I'm funding it with my own savings. I've been setting aside money from my city job." The salary isn't high, but she had adapted to living frugally and appreciating every dollar she earned. "Are you certain? We can comfortably cover the master's expenses." "I know, but I need to accomplish this independently. It's integral to who I am now." Aurora visited that afternoon, a ritual she'd kept every Friday for months. She had become a confidant to both of us, observing our transformation with fascination. "Antonia, I must confess something," she began, pouring a second cup of tea. "Initially, I thought you were unduly harsh with Clara." "And what are your thoughts now?" I asked. "Now, I believe you are the wisest mother I've ever known. Just observe your daughter. Truly, look at her." It was undeniably true. The Clara in the living room, diligently studying for her examinations, was profoundly different from the one who had departed for Europe months prior. This Clara radiated an inner peace, a self-assurance rooted in her achievements, not in material wealth. "Did you know I saw Clara at the market yesterday, purchasing vegetables for a family she's assisting through her work?" She hadn't mentioned it to me, and when I asked why she was using her own funds instead of the official budget, she explained that some things cannot be quantified in budgetary allocations. That night, Clara and I dined on the veranda, a custom we'd come to cherish. It was our time to recount the day, strategize for the future, and simply relish each other's company. "Mother, I received a very peculiar letter today," she remarked, dicing her salad. "From whom?" I inquired, my muscles tensing. "Edward? He wrote to you? From where?" "From a French prison. Apparently he was sentenced to 2 years for marriage fraud. In the letter, he expresses regret for everything he did and seeks my forgiveness."